Today on the Cameron Journal podcast, I am joined by Stefan Fehr. He is over at moderniqs.com. He is an AI pioneer and expert and speaker, and we're going to talk about something very interesting. And that is his idea that we are already halfway to AGI. And you're going to hear a lot from him and not from me because, as I'm sure the listener can hear, I have a head cold today. It started last week. I've been battling it all weekend. I almost didn't record today, but I decided to croak through. Um, for you folks. So we're going to hear a lot from him and very little from me. So I can just sit here and be on mute and quietly try not to make a too big deal about being sick. But it's AI, it's AGI. This is a very heady topic. I'm sure he has lots to say, and I have very little to say. So I think this will work out. So welcome, Stefan, to the Cameron Journal podcast.
Hello, hello.
Hello. All right. So why don't you start us right off from the beginning by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into AI?
Yeah, I started using the first AI apps basically when they came out 2019. So quite a while before everybody got around with ChatGPT. And yeah, I'm strong in the software as a service corner, so I built my own AI company, Modern IQs. And what we're focusing on is we're creating one-click solutions right now in the content generation space where you can create, for example, high quality blog articles in 10 seconds where you would usually need 4 hours with ChatGPT or 20 hours without AI. And so I'm involved in the whole AI game since 2019. And yeah, I've been watching it. I've been watching OpenAI when it was still Musk's company, and I'm watching the progress and I'm listening to the experts, which the experts in the field of how far are we with the intelligence, like how big are the steps, what kind of technologies are we developing right now that go way beyond the capabilities of an LLM, so of what we know right now as AI, which is really more an autocomplete, and how far are we away from the AGI point? So for the most people, I guess AG. Do you know what AGI is?
Well, yes, isn't that shorthand for the artificial general intelligence? It's the super intelligence that is going to turn into Skynet and
Mhm,
kill us
mhm.
all, or turn us into vegetables of the Matrix, depending on your favorite movie franchise.
Yeah. So this is the common this is one of the things I wanted to address because it's not true. AGI is we're not talking we're talking about digital intelligence at a human capable level. So this is what is actually AGI, and then we're talking about the digital super intelligence, which is going way beyond human capabilities. So when the experts say we are the experts' consensus right now is that we'll reach AGI in 2026. So in 2026, we'll reach a point where a digital intelligence is as smart as a human is and has the capabilities of a human. How quickly it'll evolve from then, nobody really knows. But so the point which I just a couple of days ago I was like, oh wow. So this basically means, and this is what everybody should think about. This is why I wanted to come on the pod, is just think about how was your life in autumn 2022, before huge parts of the global population went on using ChatGPT, because we are already half the way. But so when you say November 2022, when ChatGPT came out, till now is half the way till we have the point where the experts right now say we get AGI. So this is something where I think most of the people don't even know what AGI is, or what kind of technologies are being worked on right now, and it needs to be discussed. Yeah.
Well, I think there's two problems with this. One is it seems like AI is automating all the things that we don't really need automated, you know? Um, and that's the first problem. And the second problem is to your point about 2026, this is all happening so fast. We've barely had time to get used to Chat GPT or Copilot or what Google's doing and all this type of thing. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a human-like intelligence that does what? Is owned by who? How
Hmm.
will it be deployed, And then you get into questions of consciousness,
Hmm.
does this person have human rights sort of thing? Will they
Hmm.
have to be paid?
Hmm.
Sort of, all of these questions start to come up. And that discussion, we're not even talking about any of those things. That's not even, everyone's just like, when is the AI going to wash my dishes and change the
Hmm.
laundry? Which is a good question, but sadly not relevant to the conversation.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I noticed in your a LinkedIn article, you argued that we needed to slow down.
Hmm.
Why do you
Yeah.
think we need to slow down, and is there any chance of that?
When you think about, okay, so let's assume, I think Elon Musk said a couple of days ago that they are planning on rolling out larger numbers of robots in 2026. So that means, so by the end of next year or within the next year, they want to have several thousands of robots working in the Tesla factories. And so this is the first real task where a human completely gets this. So the job is a robot is doing the job, right? And that's the training part. So this is where the robots get trained on walking around in the real world, doing real world tasks, and so on. So it's going to be in probably in the Tesla factories first, where they learn to do human work, and this is happening in the next year. And so what I'm saying is, the experts' consensus on 2026 for AGI is the software, but we will have 2026 probably have already Tesla building large amounts of robots as well. So it's a bot as well. So it's going to do work. And I guess the question is, how if we assume we are already half the way to to the first large rollout of robots doing human work and software replacing office workers globally, which is already happening, then we need to ask the question, where should we be right now in our transition to a work-free human life, government systems, and so on? So, for example, I know
Sorry,
that.
I was muted one moment. We're still arguing over whether people should work from home or return to the office, at least in
Exactly.
this country. We're not even talking about like
Yeah.
work as we know it could be obsolete by the end of this decade.
Hmm.
Like, and then what do we go, especially, if you're in a wealthy, developed country that can afford this type of technology, then, what are we going to do? I mean, like, like I can't imagine German people with nothing to do. Like, what are they gonna do? Sit around and
Think.
toot those big, that's the Swiss with the horns in the Alps. But like what are you gonna do? Just drive on the Autobahn all day and I don't know, not much else. Like, it's I mean, at least I guess here will be a great chance to go see all the national parks, I suppose, get a
Hmm.
pass,
Hmm.
sort of thing. But I mean, that's frightening though. That's
Hmm.
genuinely frightening that could be a reality by the end of the decade because the mass unemployment, who will buy products? No one will have any money, you
Hmm.
know. And
So,
trying to have universal basic income right now, I
hmm.
get probably that you might be able to do that in Europe. That's dead on arrival in this country. I mean, there's no political will in Washington for that.
Yeah,
And,
that'll quickly be. Well, because when you
I mean, I
have
guess unless it's the if we don't do this, the global economy is going to collapse. So if you'd like to continue doing this thing that we're doing, it's time for the governments of the world to start taxing the robots and writing the checks.
look, um, the, it's not like we're not living in a world where machines do work. We live in a world where a vast majority, I mean, just think about how much calculations we would need to do if we wouldn't have computers. So
Right,
we're living in a world where a vast, I would say more than 95% of the global work is done by machines, building cars, building, bricks for houses, whatever. So,
right,
and our wealth went up. This is very important to understand. When we started using machines, to outsource our work to machines, our wealth went up. Why? Because you would need to have $500,000 to buy a Toyota Corolla or something like that, if it
yeah.
wouldn't be done in a factory. So,
No, duplicative effort. I mean, when you have, in the past, like with agriculture, in 1900, 50% of the United States
yeah.
worked in agriculture, and by the end of the 20th century, it was 2%. Because the tractors, the planters, we don't,
Mm,
we don't even have people to pick vegetables anymore. They have machines that do that now.
mhm,
They invented a machine to harvest sugar cane. That used to be done by hand, all this type of thing. Pretty much the only thing that I think still picked by hand is a few fruits and veggies like strawberries. They have not figured out with a strawberry picker yet. So they have people and boards that lay down and the tractor driver drives them along and they pick. Um, but the whole thing's done with like five dudes, sort of thing. So you're out, but it's that duplicative effort. And then you get, the assembly line and you get that division of labor and all that type of thing. And of course, yeah, then prices go down and wealth increases and
mhm.
you get, yeah, that of
So
course.
as long as I'm always saying, as long as the work is done, we we have way to make this work. What I see what so my point really is like, where should we be right now? So where we should be right now and this is my opinion, is I know that some Northern European countries have made a test for UBI, and we had a Corona test 2 years ago, something, where we all stayed at home. Um,
Yes.
so
We
but
did sort of slap together a social safety net in this country real quick,
mhm.
kind of overnight.
That's what I'm saying. That this is
Yeah.
it's possible. So the really interesting. So the thing is, let's assume Tesla rolls out millions of robots yearly, and they will do probably do the work of 5 humans. One robot will do the work of 5 humans. So we'll very quickly have a global workforce that is doing the work without us needing to do the work. So the work is being done. The question is, how are we going to tax it? And how do we distribute the money? But as long as the work is done, I mean, as long as somebody's picking the strawberries, you can eat them, right?
Right.
So that's not what I'm more concerned about is we are not even here with our progress on how to transition safe, right? We're
Right.
very, very like nowhere. And we should be
Yeah.
half the way now. So what we should see is 50% of all the countries on Earth should, or something, however you want to see your 50%, should be doing massive efforts to roll out or heavily test UBI. And I think this should not even be our main task. Our main task should not be how do we roll out UBI, because I don't think that this is going to be the big problem as long as the work is done. But how do we mentally deal with not needing to work anymore? And you said the German, think about the Chinese worker. Think about 900 million people in China that are not so used to, as long as my information is correct, doing holidays or this. Like they define themselves with what they do way more than we do, and they are the
They
first
have
that.
those brutal 996 working schedules and all this type of thing. And yeah, and
And think
and
think
also
about.
very much still a developing country, so there's lots to do. There's dams to build, highways to put in, high speed rail, all this sort of thing.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, that's what do you do? I mean, I think that's the fundamental question is there's 8 billion people on this planet. Unless you're a tribesman in Africa,
Mhm.
um, if you're second and first world, what will we do? You
Mhm.
know?
So you have to think about that the price in I think in 2030 the price of a human hour work is gonna it's an hour of work will be worth maybe 10 cents. So this is where we at in 6 years.
That's
Maybe
a
the
big
rollout is
problem.
that's a big problem. Yes. Because you cannot compete with a 10 cents robot.
True. I mean, but at the same time, though, I think there's in a weird way, like, you know, just because robots can do, or there's a lot of other sort of support tasks and things, in terms of, administration and running these companies and all this type of thing. I don't imagine robots will be doing that anytime soon. So, I mean, I think you may end up with, a very large company that is ran by a handful of people,
Mhm, mhm.
like a big industrial play. I mean, the way you make it sound, like if you're at Volkswagen, maybe you need the C-suite and a couple secretaries and das ist alles. Like, it's like, yeah, 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 we do the whole thing on like 10 dudes who decide what to do and a couple secretaries to answer the phone and that's about it. Otherwise, the factory just kind of takes care of itself, sort of thing.
Mhm. So what I'm always in so this is not all bad, right? So what we're talking about here is uh some risk for a limited amount of time. I see the risk, to be honest, on not most people see the are asking themselves like how am I going to be paid? But I think the bigger risk is mentally. How why should I get up in the morning? This is something it's just a stronger thing. But on the upside, I mean, you have to think about, let's assume you have a future company where you have, for example, 5,000 robots, and they are going to build, skyscrapers. Like in a couple of kilometers of distance to nearly every city, even smaller city globally. And then you would have, as a student, you could probably have a flat with 200 square meters of room for 50 euros an hour, 50 euros a month or $50 a month. So this
Yeah.
is like that. There's a lot of positives as well. So what we need to focus on is like where how are other experts going to be right? And I think in AI they will be. So
Yeah.
so because it's like it's very unnatural to imagine a double or triple exponential curve, and that's what the development there does. So we think our world is developing slowly because we're not used to something being like whoop in front of our eyes. But this is probably how it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most recent example is probably the smartphone. I remember I was
ChatGPT.
like, yeah, I was like in the middle of college when the smartphone came out, and it was kind of one of those things of like, no one had them. And I remember like the summer, everyone leaves for summer, and by that fall, everyone has them. The whole thing took in like 3 months.
Wow, that's quick compared to Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, our adoption of it was much faster here
Hmm.
than it
Hmm.
was. Yes, no, it absolutely was. Um,
Hmm.
I have friends who, still don't really do that sort of thing all these many years later. Yeah, especially on a college campus, we're young, we're tech savvy,
Hmm.
the Google phone had come out, the iPhone had launched, everyone wanted one.
Hmm.
And back then, you could only get the iPhone on one particular carrier. So people were changing their phone plans. I mean, it was insane.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, this thing was a part of your life, sort of thing.
Same with
Um,
ChatGPT.
well, yeah, I
But
mean, yeah, yeah, we woke up one day and all of
and it
a
was
sudden
there.
there's this machine that will
Never.
answer all your questions and do all the things and will write stuff and
And
it,
and now
yeah.
what you have to just what you have to think about is that in the future, this is always going to be like that. With every new thing, it's going to be instantly there. So there is no electric vehicle adoption something. Everything in the future is going to be instantly there. Maybe even to a point where so this is where we need to link our brains to keep up with the speed, because you will have something new in the morning and it's already outplaced in the afternoon, and you cannot keep up with learning what's up to date. So you need to um yeah, you need to subconsciously learn without, active learning. You just need to know. You need to know what's happening. But this is a
Yeah.
different topic for another
Well,
time.
yeah. I mean, I mean, yes, even things like the automobile took a long time. Mercedes invented in 1885, but cars didn't really become that particularly common until the early 20th century. And you didn't have a practical car an everyday person could drive for another decade beyond that, sort
Mhm.
of thing. Um, there's a really great film where they did a historical recreation of Bertha Benz and her first road trip to see her sister. She traveled the tremendous distance of 12 miles in the
Mhm.
little cart sort of thing. It's very cute and very adorable. Um and um no, it was a very, very long time to get that on online. So let's take this from the other direction.
Mhm.
I've lived long enough at 36 years old to see a lot of things come, a lot of things go, a lot of things get hyped up and end up going nowhere. The most famous example being self-driving cars. In 2014, in fact, it was so funny. I was watching a video from the other day. In 2014, everyone presumed, I myself said,
Mhm.
that time was going through my German car phase and I was on like Audi number three. And uh and I was kind of like, this will be the last human driven car that I will buy. Well, that
Not
was
so
not
much.
quite the situation. My Forester is sitting outside and it definitely needs help. Although it's very autonomous. It has that cruise control with LiDAR, so it will speed up and slow
Mhm.
down sort of thing, and it
Mhm.
does the crash avoidance thing. And so it's smarter,
Mhm.
because I literally went from like late 90s, early 2000s Audis and then jumped forward to a 2017 Subaru Forester. So I kind of jumped up car tech a lot. And so it has a bit of a brain. It has its own little ideas about stuff and all this type of thing. So let's say, how do we know this isn't the self-driving car hype? Because
Mhm.
self-driving cars were supposed to have already come and happened and made driving obsolete. Hasn't quite happened. Even Tesla can't figure it out. What part of this is self-driving car hype? What part of this isn't
Mhm.
going to happen and we'll all still be going to work 6 years from now?
So, I'm when it comes, so Tesla is kind of like my hobby.
Yes.
When I do a break, I don't watch news. I watch what's happening with this company, because I think they're going to change so much. Um, I hope that there are some bottlenecks that we cannot address fast. For example, electricity. So everybody right now is talking about compute, right? So how do we get to the next phases without enough compute? So compute is the current bottleneck. But once we have compute, it'll cost a lot, because we don't have enough electricity for this, right? So I hope that there's a couple of bottlenecks along the way, which artificially or actually really slow things down. Um, but in the when we talk about humanoid robots, I think we're going to see the same kind of thing as with autonomous cars. But the thing is, it's the same technology. So the technology of the bot moving inside our world is already almost there. And so it's more about fast mass production, and that's where Tesla is really strong at, and they need it for their own company as well. So when it comes to the bot, I so that's the issue. The real issue right now is when it comes to the bot itself, I can see a way that it's not taking longer than 6 years, at least for let's say 10 or 20% of so replacing 10 or 20% of global workforce. So I'm not sure. I don't think that everybody will be replaced soon, but eventually in the next 15 years, I think they will. Which is not so much. I don't know. It's not so much a bad thing. What I hope, to be honest, what I really hope is that there's going to be some part of intelligence which cannot artificially be reproduced, like creation, like real. I mean, when you enter something into ChatGPT, it can help you a lot with the creative part, right? What text can I write or so on. But I hope that there will be some parts of our intelligence which will stay natural. So AGI can very slowly be created. But I'm not sure.
No, I'm
This is
so
why.
glad you brought up the electrical issue because that in this country, that has started to be a conversation because the electricity consumption in the United States hasn't changed in about 40 years.
Hmm.
And it's really been a great climate change story because we have increased population by 1/3, we have increased productivity, but electricity consumptions remain the same.
Hmm.
And we're, one of the very few industrial countries that's done anything to really kind of control that in any reasonable way. Not that we're doing great things on climate change, we're just not as bad as other people. And now people are already saying, like Amazon is buying up electricity and power contracts through the end of this year. There's not hardly a kilowatt of electricity left to
Hmm.
find from sea to
Hmm.
shining sea. It's
Hmm.
all committed. We're
Hmm.
kind of already out, and there's a hunger and demand for more.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah.
coal-fired power plants that were supposed to go offline that are now getting renewed because demand is
Hmm.
there. They're trying to build these small nuclear modular reactor things, which
Hmm.
the Soviets tried that in the 70s and it turned lots of places into small Superfund sites. I don't know that that's necessarily a smart idea. Um, sort of thing.
Hmm.
And so there's that thing. I was watching something about wanting to put a lot of the new computer resources in the Middle East because they have the oil and the powers, build the plant and the energy sources right there. I don't know. Europe already has enough energy issues. I don't know where the energy is going to come from,
True.
given geopolitics and all this type of thing. Norway, pump more oil. We're going to need every last barrel you can muster, sort of thing. Um, but I think electricity is probably is going to be the first great, I
Barrier.
think, barrier and bottleneck.
Yeah.
But given your timeline, not so bad. Power plants take time to build.
True.
I mean, that could not be such a bad thing if we
Hmm.
use that time wisely to have a real conversation of, okay, the employment capitalist model we have had for 400 years is on its way out.
True.
We'd better start coming up with something else now, sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, and,
But
and 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 it's also you have to. I mean, when you think about it, um, it's not like I mean, the bot can already work. It's not like so what so when it comes to AGI or like the super digital intelligence, then we need more compute, and this is good. But but replacing some parts of the workforce, this is already possible. So it's because the bot can already I mean Tesla is quite far at the stage where they're actually I think I think they so if you would ask me, I would say in 2 years they will be at a point where you can give the bot a tablet where on the tablet is a video running and the bot will learn from the video how to do the job. So this is going to be in 2 years. So that's what we're saying. Like, right? What we're saying is we need to have a close eye on this. We need to move fast, and our governments can move fast. I was surprised with Corona globally. It worked, all right? It was not perfect, right? But they demonstrated that they actually can execute fast, and this is very 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 important in the future. Yeah.
what is that? Do you think it's going to be a slow burn, or are we going to wake up one day and it's just going to be massive, huge layoffs and people standing in the street, sort of with that bewildered, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself look. Like, when will we know it's bad? Like, slash, it's here and we'll probably be ill prepared for it. And what does that look like?
This is something which is way beyond my intelligence because that's where you have to so look, I would say it's probably if you got to look out for the signs. So for example, just let's take full self-driving, driving cars, right? So when you see the signs, you can see them now. For example, Tesla is taking them longer now to get better because the incidents get so rare, right? So this is a sign that it's gonna be here soon, right? It's getting like way better, or it got way better to a point where it's so good that it's not progressing very fast anymore because you don't have much instances for it to learn. So when you have a closer look, and this is why I'm saying, like, there's a lot of topics on the planet. There's wars, there's climate change, and they are all important. But this topic I would say deserves more more eyeballs and from everybody to see the science because there will be science. The robot that is so when you look at Tesla's videos on X, they you can see the robot working in the factory. This is a clear sign. This is a robot doing human work right now. So yeah, we need to progress fast.
Yeah, I guess my problem is I just don't believe that we're going to be able to keep up. I think I
Ah.
here's what I think is going to happen as because this is my expertise. I do politics in the news. Here's how I think this is going to go down. All of a sudden, these robots are introduced and they are mass adopted. And much like what ChatGPT is doing now in tech and in like freelance writing and marketing, the layoffs start 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. All of a sudden, you have whole classes of work that are obsolete.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, if you live in a country with a robust social safety net, this isn't the end of the world.
Mhm.
I live in America where we don't do that here. And so all of a sudden, people can't feed their families. The
Mhm.
political instability that could come from that
Mhm.
is genuinely frightening. And if you
Mhm.
and
True.
honestly to my European listeners, if you think the far right parties in Europe, like Marine Le Pen and Front National and the Five Star Party in Italy and all this type of thing aren't going to capitalize on that social unrest, I have a bridge in Bavaria to sell you. Um like that's I mean the social unrest that could result from that. I
Yeah.
mean, if I were the CCP, I would be genuinely frightened. You have millions of Chinese who can't get a job and can't feed
Oh
themselves.
yeah.
That's your regime done for. Their regime stays in power
Mm.
predicated on economic growth and people being able to
Mhm.
have money and be fed. If they can't supply that, they're out of power. And they're well aware of that. That would not be news to anyone in Beijing.
Mhm.
Um, but like the social unrest, even in this country, the social unrest, the old saying, 3 days of hunger, revolution sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the social unrest from that would be tremendous. And then you get, people throwing their sabos at the machines sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and all sorts of things like that. So I think, yeah, the
There's
social
risks.
unrest will be out.
Mhm.
But here's the set, and I don't know if you find this because you are on an insider and I'm, just a silly person who does the news and whatnot. But you're the first person. I have been on the air for 10 years. I've been in broadcasting for almost 20 years. This show has existed in two forms for 10 years. You are the only person who's ever approached me to talk about the human implications of something technology is going to do.
Mhm.
That's embarrassing. Because usually I'm the one that invites these people on the show to ask them, have you considered
Mhm.
how this will affect people? And I get blank stares and a lot of, well, we don't think about that here. And I'm kind of like, well, maybe you should try it, sort of thing. And I have to say, you're the first person who wanted to come on to specifically talk about the human element in technology. So I guess the question I have is, why don't more technologists and people who are doing this start these conversations sooner?
This is the core of the issue. Not like only, yeah, the core of the issue is that what I am most concerned about is not where we are in our execution in this transition, but that most of the people underestimate this what's going to come like s- very quickly. So to your answer, I did not approach you. It was my AI. So I had a system running that was scoring podcasts, and you had nine out of 10 on this topic. So yeah.
I'm not surprised. I've had a parade of people on the show talking about this, and I did several interviews on cybersecurity, and this is a
Yeah.
topic that I've covered quite extensively. So I'm not surprised because I know my own catalog.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised about that, and I actually got ranked on Podbean 51st out of 100 for news and politics, which was really great. Just a little bragging moment there for you.
Mhm.
But it's yeah, I mean that's but I mean even so even the fact that you had a machine to go through and find and say, oh, all this type of thing, I it's still kind of remarkable that it's like, oh yay, we're finally having the conversation that I
Mhm.
feel like we probably should have been having 5 years ago.
Look,
And
look.
now we're finally having it, and I already feel like we're behind the eight ball, but nobody knows it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason, look, for me, it's so I'm benefiting from this technology, and also I'm at the forefront. So I was sharing, like, tagging OpenAI everywhere 1 year ago, where I said, if GPT-5 comes before 2025, I'm canceling everything with you guys, because I
Yeah.
was so concerned. And I just hope so. What I'm seeing right now from OpenAI, for example, is the right move. What they do is not developing, or at least what we don't what what we know is that they're not developing GPT-5 or rolling it out or whatever, but keeping GPT-4, which is so has so much potential, like interacting with the phone, making things easier, interacting with GPT-4 quality LLMs, which which is really where we should stop for a while and develop to its maximum potential. For example, um, the reason why I approached you, that how I got my score was my AI system went through, I don't know, over 2,000 podcasts, comparing and giving scores out. And that was done with the cheapest model. So that was Llama 3, which is like cheap. So this is
Yeah.
nowhere at GPT, like GPT-4 is, I don't know, way better. Yeah. So we should slow down.
Well, and I guess that's my question is, how come it seems like in these technology circles, no one ever no one is ever brave enough to do what you've done and say, we need to slow down, we need to maybe put the brakes on this, we need to really develop this before we go, because if we just race forward, we're going to have a crisis. What is it about this world of technology and science that nobody's having those conversations earlier, sooner?
Man, I don't know. Maybe it's because they don't have time. I'm automating everything, so I have enough time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like that very necessary human element is so often left behind. And as someone who loves technology and, obviously don't know it as well as someone like you, but all this type of thing, I find it very frustrating
Mm.
that the fundamental human element seems to always get left out and
Look,
left
for just
behind.
just
And
to
it's
say
sometimes
from
even hard to talk about.
oh, just to say from my point, I'm benefiting from this technology, but I'm also concerned. And I'm at the forefront, so I know that's the thing. Like maybe most of the people are not so much at the forefront of technology as I am, so they just don't know, and they don't maybe they don't care as well. I do. I mean, it's like when you build the hammer or when you build the gun to protect yourself, it's all still a gun, so you gotta know how to deal with it. And you know so it's like, I mean, I'm using this technology for myself and for my customers, so there is a part of responsibility there. Yeah.
No, for certain, for certain, for certain. Well, we only usually do about 45 minutes, and with my head cold, we're gonna end
Yeah.
early, although I'm sure we could go on. We'll have to have you back. Why don't you let us know where we can find you online and keep up with you?
Yeah, of course.
This is your chance to where people want to follow you, where should they do so?
Ah, yeah, of course. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, on X. I'm everywhere, and Modern IQs is on all the channels as well. Um, we have built a huge, so we're using our own system to help startups to so when on our website we have a huge directory for startup challenges and solutions, where a startup can have a checklist about everything they should do and can read through and how to do it and so on. So Modern IQs is our platform where we have our one-click solutions using AI to save you a lot of time. And I'm mostly active right now on LinkedIn, but I'm probably gonna switch to X soon. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Cameron Journal podcast.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter, and we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast.